Hi everybody, Adam Steele from Hot Pole Studios here, and today is going to be largely a talking head video, so if you need to kind of listen to this while you're on a drive or whatever rather than watching the screen, I'm sure that's fine. This is me talking about the EVE Audio SC207 monitor speakers that are on the desktop right there. Now, a little bit of backstory before we begin. If you've been watching the channel over the last 6 or 7 years, you will have seen the Adam Audio A7Xs behind me. I've used those speakers and the A7s before that, which were the original model, for many, many years. And it turns out the designer who designed not only the A7 speaker, but the folded ribbon tweeter that's in there, or at least was one of the designers of that whole thing, is now the main guy at EVE Audio. And so that is one of those ooh kind of things, because I kind of know those Adam speakers fairly intimately at this point after a decade. And now EVE Audio have sent me their SC207s to put them in their place and see if I prefer them, what I like, what I don't like. And so I'm going to tell you my findings now, because I've had these now for about 3 months. And they're in the same place as the previous monitors, everything's set up the same. So in theory, the differences that I hear should be differences that work for you in your situation. So when I first bought a set of near-field monitors that had that folded ribbon tweeter in them, that was the alternative at that time compared to pretty much every other monitor speaker using traditional dome tweeters. I mean, this is 15 years ago now, if not more. And they were really cool. They didn't have a kind of a hyped, brittle, harsh top end, that particular design. And so I stuck with that. And every other person's studio that I've been to that has dome tweeters on everything, I almost always find that there's kind of a kind of frequency in there that doesn't vibe well with me. Now, of course, I'm very happy to have another set of monitors in here with a kind of an upgraded and refreshed version of that concept. The folded ribbon tweeter, meaning that it's kind of like ribbon microphones are known for their kind of neutral sound, where dome tweeters are kind of a compromise, where the way that they've done this is it kind of packs a high frequency driver that would be really long and really big into a much smaller space. Problem if it would be really big, firstly that would be making the speaker really large, but also that starts to take away from the ideal speaker, and the ideal speaker is a point source. Now, as you can see with these, there are 2 speakers in them, the woofer and the tweeter, and that's a fairly standard design for near fields, of course. It's only speakers like this one behind my head, like the Auratone, where it has only a woofer, but they really don't extend up into the top end of the human hearing range. It's always a compromise. The way that you get the full frequency spectrum that humans can hear in kind of modern speaker design is we have to compromise somewhere, and that compromise generally is the kind of the 2-way or even 3-way speaker systems. EVE Audio do 3-way speakers as well, but those are starting to get big budget and also big power handling, and more than I would need in a room of this size. Of course, the next question that you have to ask is, what are you trying to achieve with your monitors? And I'm in here mostly trying to achieve getting the most honest sound reproduction that I can get for just me and not necessarily the other people in the room, at a fairly reasonable price point. Although, because I now do this for a living, I don't mind paying, a bit more than a home user would pay. But I'm definitely not at the kind of level where I can spend $10,000 on monitoring systems. That for me is still out of reach. And the question is, even if I could afford that, how much more would I get from that? But that's a question for another day. Let's talk about the features for a minute, because these have some features. These have a very small amount of inbuilt DSP, but it's not crazy stuff like some of the super high-end stuff that you see with these like full Wi-Fi app remote EQ. Oh no. This is relatively simple. It's got 3 EQ things that it can do in there, and it's got a volume control, of course, and it's all on the front. And I think this is great because it means I can turn them on and off without having to reach around the back. I can change things to do with the EQ without going round the back. Because how am I supposed to hear the differences when I'm setting everything up without having to go behind and then come back around? And then you say, oh, we'll get someone else to do it. Yeah, that's not always convenient, especially at the moment with everybody being in lockdowns everywhere. So there is high frequency where you can go plus or minus. There is low, which is, again, a couple of dB here and there. I think it's 4 dB either way. And then there's one called shelf. It's not called shelf, I'm an idiot, it's called desk. Although the principle is there, where what you might find in a lot of situations is that if you have to sit your monitors on or near to a desk, that will make a certain, not ultra bass, but slightly higher, kind of 150, 200 hertz kind of high resonance that's going to do that kind of thing. And that can really mess with your perception and mess with your mixes. If you're having that kind of problem, you can use these to just correct for that. See if you can borrow a measurement mic off somebody, or just buy one. They're less expensive ones are not, crazy expensive. And use something like Room EQ Wizard, and you can see just how accurate monitors are in your room, and the fact that you can adjust things on these speakers is really quite useful. I should mention at this point that it probably looks like these speakers are just sat on this wooden console, which would cause a lot of resonances. If you look closely, they are not. Each one of the speakers is mounted on spikes so that they make absolute minimum contact with that top of the console there. It's an old BBC console, it's all solid wood, doesn't resonate very much. Of course it does resonate a little, that's kind of part of the design, but that's where that desk EQ comes in. And the fact that I've minimized that. It's only a small gap, but the fact that there's almost zero contact there, that's what I've done. So yeah, don't worry about that too much. The first thing I did when I got these in is I thought they sounded not very bright, these speakers. That was my first impression. But it turns out that was kind of comparative, because compared to the previous monitors that I had, they didn't have as kind of extended an upper treble range. But it turns out that was all in my head, and I had been pushing the treble on those. And so as I listened to reference material, like one of my favourites that I listen to on new monitors is Skrillex's Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, which is, you would think, a strange song to compare a PA system or a sound system with, but it's got some really clever uses of mono to stereo switching, and it uses quite a lot of different frequency ranges in there. It's a really good one to use for referral if you get to know it quite well. I highly recommend it. And what I was finding was that the ticky high frequency elements were perfectly crisp without being overbearing. The bass was solid without being flubby, which is really good considering that these are ported, but they are rear ported, which I did worry about because the walls behind there do tend to reflect, but it turns out that the big wide port that's on the back really stops that from being a problem. Very well done to EVE. These really do go down quite low as well. They were reaching 50 something hertz. They didn't do the whole 50 hertz and below thing with any sort of boomf impact, but that's the compromise of any two-way speaker system. I do also have a sub under the desk, and when I engaged the sub, that was not an issue. That then went away, but of course it did. That's why I got a sub. But the shelf system, I thought I had kind of 150 hertz bump on these, and so I took some out, and then I did more EQ wizard stuff, and actually found that the best sound for me with these was to leave everything on 0. What does that tell you? That tells me that the guys at EVE Audio have tuned their speakers to be pretty much optimal straight out the box. Great. I mean, if you've got any EQ rooms, things that you need to do, you can. But the fact that I could just leave them, job done. Oh, and these things are loud. For their size, I can turn them up and up and up, and my hair starts to get blown back, I noticed. Before I'm really hearing any noticeable harmonic distortion. Now, there will be some harmonic distortion at loud levels because these speaker monitors are only so big, but I was really feeling like I was having to hurt my ears to get to that point, which is really quite impressive in this price bracket, and that's the next thing to talk about. At retail, these SC207s, at time of making this video, are about £360 each. Now, I've always wondered why speakers like this are sold as singles, but I suppose if you want something like a 5.1 system, that means you can buy 5 and not 6. But aside from that, that means it's what, £720 for a set? The A7Xs that I was previously using were a good £200 a pair more, and yet I prefer the sound of these at a lower price point. Just goes to show that you should not necessarily buy the most expensive thing. These are probably in the same price range, but aside from that, yeah, don't just go for the one that's the most expensive. Go for the one that is the best, in my opinion, out of the two of them and out of any other monitors that I've tried that are even near this price bracket. The EVE Audio SC207s win hands down. These are the most honest, good feeling speakers that don't try and pander to make things sound good. They sound real, and so any mistakes that are on there are definitely of my doing, which means that I instantly fix them, and so my mixes sound better. What more can you ask for? I mean, there are some contenders coming up from other companies in much lower price brackets. But these, if you can shell out the extra money, are probably worth the upgrade in price. And the next jump from here, we're probably doubling the money or more. So, yeah. If at any point you do see these come off the mixing console, it will only be for something that is way more expensive, because I'm going to really have to justify spending a lot of money to replace these. So, as it stands, they stay. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks to EVE Audio for sending over these speakers. Full disclosure, I did get these speakers from EVE Audio to do the demo with. I'm probably going to have to work something out for not sending these back. But yeah, these are really, really good speakers. I'm not being paid to say that, and I have the option of sending them back and using the speakers I've always used. So if there's nothing in it for me, there's no reason for me to say that they are great other than that's what I genuinely think. So I think it's fair. It will probably say at the start of the video, includes paid promotion. We have to put that in because EVE Audio have sent these speakers, and I've not yet paid them for the speakers. They are for review, but if I end up keeping them, then we'll work something out. And so to avoid, you know, the whole legal, I have to put that in. So yeah, be aware that just like before you all say, oh, paid shill, no, not paid. And yeah, they've just been sent for review for now, and I'll probably have to work some out. So Thanks for watching, everybody. Hit the subscribe button for more production videos, more technical tutorials, more bass and guitar stuff, and hit the like button if you found this useful. Let me know in the comments what your favourite monitors are, whether you're looking to buy something in this price range, whether you bought something different, and let me know why, because it's always interesting to know people's opinions. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Hey everyone. That might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server, link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.